Have you ever noticed how your value seems to change depending on how others treat you? One bad comment, and suddenly you feel small. One rejection, and your confidence collapses. One failure, and you start questioning your entire worth. In a world where you are constantly being measured by productivity, income, appearance, followers, relationships, it's easy to believe that your value has to be earned. Most people in the US don't feel worthless because they are weak. They feel worthless because they were taught, subtly and repeatedly, that self-worth equals performance. From a young age, you learn. Grades define intelligence. Work defines value. Success defines identity. And somewhere along the way, you stop asking, "Who am I?" and start asking, "Am I enough?" This is not a personal failure. This is psychology. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden mechanics of self-worth, why it breaks so easily, why approval feels addictive, and why no achievement ever feels like it's enough. This is not about motivation. This is about liberation. Because once you understand how self-worth actually works, you stop chasing validation, and you finally start living. Most people believe self-worth is something you either have or don't have. You're confident or you're not. You feel valuable or you don't. But that belief is already the first problem. Self-worth doesn't collapse because you're weak. It collapses because it was never built on something stable to begin with. Think about your daily life. Your mood shifts based on emails, performance reviews, social media reactions, money, relationships, or how productive you were that day. One compliment can lift you up. One mistake can make you question everything. That's not coincidence. That's conditioning. From early on, you were taught, directly or indirectly, that your value depends on results, grades, achievements, behavior, approval. You learned that being good enough meant meeting expectations. So now, as an adult, your sense of worth rises and falls with external feedback. When things go well, you feel confident. When they don't, your inner voice turns harsh, critical, and unforgiving. This creates a fragile identity, one that must constantly be defended, proven, and maintained. And here's the key insight most people miss. If your self-worth can be taken away by circumstances, it was never self-worth. It was conditional worth. In this series, we're going to dismantle that condition piece by piece. Not to inflate your ego, but to build something real, grounded, and unshakable. Because true self-worth is not something you earn. It's something you recover. Self-worth is not something you were born questioning. You weren't born feeling not enough. You learned it. In childhood, love often came with conditions. You were praised when you behaved, performed, or achieved. You were corrected, ignored, or withdrawn from when you didn't. Over time, your nervous system made a simple association. Being accepted equals being valuable. This conditioning didn't always come from cruel parents. Sometimes it came from well-meaning ones. Teachers who rewarded grades more than curiosity. Coaches who praised results more than effort. A culture that celebrated winners but quietly shamed those who struggled. In the US, this conditioning is amplified. You grow up surrounded by the message that success is proof of worth. Work harder. Be better. Do more. If you fail, it must mean something about you. So your identity becomes performance-based. You don't ask, "Who am I?" You ask, "How am I doing compared to others?" And that comparison never ends. As an adult, this conditioning lives on inside your inner voice. When you succeed, it says, "Now you're okay." When you fail, it says, "See, you're not enough." This voice feels like truth, but it isn't. It's a learned survival strategy, not a fact. Understanding this changes everything. Because once you see that your self-worth was programmed, you stop blaming yourself for struggling with it, and you begin the process of reclaiming it. Approval doesn't just feel good. It feels necessary. When someone praises you, likes your post, or validates your effort, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical involved in motivation, reward, and habit formation. Your nervous system reads approval as safety. This is not weakness. It's biology. Humans are wired for connection. For most of human history, being accepted by the group meant survival. Rejection meant danger. So when approval is given, your brain thinks, I'm safe. I belong. But here's the trap. Because approval brings relief, your mind begins to chase it. You start adjusting your behavior, not based on what feels true to you, but on what keeps validation coming. You say yes when you want to say no. You overwork to prove your value. You avoid conflict to stay liked. You measure yourself by reactions, not alignment. And the more you rely on approval, the more fragile your self-worth becomes. Why? Because approval is unpredictable. It depends on other people's moods, expectations, and standards, none of which you control. So you're constantly scanning. Did I do enough? Did I say the right thing? Am I still valued? This creates anxiety, burnout, and quiet resentment. Here's the truth most people never hear. Approval can feel like love, but it cannot replace self-worth. In fact, the more you chase it, the less stable you feel without it. In the next part, we'll talk about how self-comparison quietly destroys self-worth, even when you're doing well. Comparison feels harmless at first. You tell yourself it's just motivation, a way to measure progress, a reminder to push harder. But psychologically, comparison rarely builds self-worth. It quietly erodes it. In today's world, especially in the US, you're constantly exposed to curated success, career milestones, perfect relationships, financial wins, fitness transformations, all displayed without context, struggle, or failure. Your brain doesn't register these as highlights. It registers them as standards. So no matter how well you're doing, there's always someone doing better, more money, more confidence, more recognition, and your mind translates that difference into a verdict. I'm behind. What makes comparison especially damaging is that it moves the goalpost. The moment you reach one level, your sense of worth shifts to the next benchmark. You don't get to feel enough. You only get to feel temporary relief. And worse, comparison strips your life of its uniqueness. It ignores your circumstances, values, timing, and limits. It reduces you to a scoreboard where you're always 1 point short. This creates a silent inner pressure, one that says, if I don't keep improving, I'll fall behind. If I slow down, I'll lose value. But self-worth was never meant to be competitive. It was never designed to be relative. In the next part, we'll explore how tying your worth to productivity leads to exhaustion, guilt, and emotional burnout, even when you're successful. In a culture that rewards output, it's easy to believe your worth is measured by how much you produce, how busy you are, how efficient you are, how much you accomplish in a day. At first, productivity feels empowering. You feel useful, needed, respected. Your efforts get noticed, and that recognition reinforces the belief, I matter because I do things. But slowly, something shifts. Rest starts to feel like laziness. Stillness feels uncomfortable. Days without visible progress feel like failure. You're no longer working to live. You're working to justify your existence. This is where self-worth becomes conditional. You feel okay only when you're productive. When you slow down, guilt appears. When you struggle, shame follows. And here's the paradox. The more you tie your worth to productivity, the less sustainable your motivation becomes. Your nervous system stays in constant activation, always proving, always pushing, never arriving. Burnout isn't a lack of discipline. It's a signal that your value system is misaligned. In the US, this mindset is normalized. Hustle culture praises exhaustion as dedication. Being busy becomes a badge of honor. But worth was never meant to be earned through output. In the next part, we'll look at how failure damages self-worth and how to separate mistakes from identity without losing ambition. Failure hurts, but not because of the mistake itself. It hurts because your mind doesn't register failure as an event. It registers it as a judgment. Instead of thinking, "This didn't work," the inner voice says, "I didn't work." When your self-worth is tied to outcomes, failure threatens your identity. It doesn't just challenge what you did, it challenges who you are. This is why small setbacks can feel overwhelming. A missed opportunity, a rejection email, a project that didn't land. Your body reacts as if something essential was taken from you. In American culture, failure is often framed as something to overcome quickly or hide. There's little space to sit with it without self-blame. So instead of processing failure, you internalize it. Over time, this creates fear. Not fear of failing, but fear of what failure will mean about you. So you avoid risks. You over-prepare. You stay where it feels safe, even when you're unhappy. But failure is not a reflection of worth. It's feedback, not a verdict. People with stable self-worth don't fail less. They recover faster. In the next part, we'll explore how shame forms and how it quietly convinces you that something is wrong with you at your core. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, "I did something wrong." Shame says, "There is something wrong with me." And once shame takes root, it reshapes how you see yourself. Shame often forms early, through criticism, emotional neglect, or repeated messages that your feelings were too much, inconvenient, or incorrect. You learned that certain parts of you were unacceptable, so you hid them. You adapted. You became agreeable, high-achieving, or invisible, whatever helped you stay safe. As an adult, shame shows up subtly. You hesitate to speak up. You downplay your needs. You assume others see your flaws before your strengths. Shame doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you not to try, not to ask, not to expect too much. It convinces you that confidence would be arrogance and self-compassion would be weakness. But shame is not truth. It's a memory stored in the nervous system. And the most damaging part? Shame thrives in silence. When left unexamined, it becomes the lens through which you interpret the world. In the next part, we'll look at how people-pleasing develops and why sacrificing yourself for approval slowly erodes self-worth. Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no? Or done something to earn approval, even though it left you exhausted? This is the quiet, insidious trap of people-pleasing, and it erodes self-worth faster than any external critique. People-pleasing often begins with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being unloved. You learn early that your value is measured by how much you accommodate others, how agreeable you are, how helpful you seem. At first, it works. You get praise, attention, and temporary validation. You feel seen. But over time, you lose touch with yourself. Your needs are ignored. Your boundaries are blurred. Your identity becomes a reflection of what others want. And here's the key insight. When your worth is tied to approval, it is never enough. No matter how much you give, someone will be dissatisfied, and your self-esteem will wobble. Psychologically, people-pleasing creates a feedback loop. You sacrifice yourself, get temporary approval, feel exhausted, seek more approval to feel worthy, repeat. It's exhausting. It's unsustainable. It's a slow erasure of who you truly are. In the next part, we'll examine how validation addiction works and why seeking constant reassurance keeps self-worth fragile. Have you ever noticed how quickly your mood shifts after a comment, a like, or a reaction from someone else? That's the effect of external validation on self-worth. When your sense of value depends on others, every approval feels like fuel, and every disapproval feels like a threat. You start measuring yourself against social media likes, office praise, or friends' opinions. You ask yourself, am I enough? Do they like me? Did I do well? This creates a constant state of vigilance. Every word, every gesture, every glance is scrutinized. Your energy is spent managing perception instead of living authentically. The irony is that no amount of external validation can fill the emptiness inside. It's temporary, fleeting. The more you seek it, the more fragile your self-esteem becomes. Even small setbacks, like being ignored, overlooked, or criticized, can feel catastrophic, because your internal measure of worth is tied to someone else's opinion, not your own understanding of yourself. The solution isn't to stop caring about others entirely. It's to internalize your sense of value, to develop a foundation that isn't shaken by external ups and downs. In the next part, we'll explore how self-comparison destroys self-worth and why your life is never a competition, no matter what your mind tells you. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why am I not as successful as them? Why don't I look like that? Why don't I have what they have? This is the silent thief of self-worth, self-comparison. Comparison is natural. It's how the brain evaluates progress. But in the modern world, it's amplified to dangerous levels. Social media, workplace metrics, and constant exposure to curated lives make it nearly impossible to feel content with what you have. When you compare, you measure your value by someone else's story. And here's the truth. Every comparison is misleading. You only see a fragment of their life, often a polished version of reality, while your struggles remain fully visible to you. Psychologically, comparison triggers shame, envy, and self-doubt. It convinces you that your life is insufficient, that you're failing, that you are unworthy. But here's the key insight. Your worth is not relative. It is not a score on a social scale. It is inherent, independent of others' achievements, looks, or status. Learning to break the comparison habit is crucial. It's not easy, but awareness is the first step. Notice when you compare. Pause. Ask yourself, is this true? Or is this my mind playing a trick on me? In the next part, we'll discuss why boundaries are essential for protecting self-worth and how to create them without guilt or fear. One of the most overlooked pillars of self-worth is the ability to set boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are not signs of weakness or selfishness. They are agreements you make with yourself about what is acceptable in your life, how you allow others to treat you, and how you treat yourself. When you lack boundaries, you may find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, tolerating disrespect, and sacrificing your needs for others. Over time, this erodes self-worth. You feel invisible, undervalued, or even resentful. The most powerful boundaries are simple. Saying no without over-explaining. Asking for what you need clearly and calmly. Walking away from situations or people that consistently drain your energy. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It's about protecting your inner value so that your energy, attention, and love are invested consciously, not wasted. Here's a short example. Imagine a friend constantly cancels plans last minute. Without boundaries, you feel hurt, but still rearrange your life. With boundaries, you communicate your expectation and step back if it continues, without guilt. This simple act reinforces that your time and energy are valuable. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you, which strengthens your self-esteem and self-worth. They are a declaration: I matter and I deserve respect. In the next part, we'll explore how cultivating self-compassion rewires the brain for lasting self-worth, even in the face of criticism or failure. Have you ever been your own harshest critic? Told yourself you're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough? If so, you are not alone. Self-compassion is the antidote to this internal attack. It is the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that you would offer a friend. Psychology shows that self-compassion improves emotional resilience, reduces anxiety, and strengthens self-worth. Why? Because your internal dialogue shapes your experience of yourself. When you criticize yourself constantly, you reinforce feelings of inadequacy. When you respond with compassion, you nurture growth and acceptance. Here's a practical approach. Notice the self-critical thought. Pause and imagine what you would say to a friend in the same situation. Respond to yourself with kindness, reassurance, and support. For example, if you failed at a task, your inner critic might say, "You're useless. You can't do anything right." Self-compassion rewrites this as, "It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone fails sometimes. You can learn and grow from this." Self-compassion doesn't excuse mistakes. It empowers you to act with courage and resilience. It creates a safe inner environment where self-worth can grow independently of external validation. In the next part, we'll discuss how emotional awareness strengthens self-worth by helping you understand and manage your feelings, rather than being controlled by them. Your emotions are not random. They are messages, signals, and sometimes warnings from your inner self. Yet, many people treat emotions as enemies. They push them away, ignore them, or try to rationalize them into silence. And when that happens, self-worth begins to crumble. Emotional awareness is the practice of observing your feelings without judgment. It's recognizing when you feel anxious, sad, angry, or excited, and understanding why. For example, you feel upset after a colleague dismisses your idea. Instead of immediately blaming yourself or spiraling into self-doubt, pause. What am I feeling? Frustration, disappointment? Why do I feel this way? Because I value recognition and my contribution matters. By acknowledging your emotions, you validate your inner experience. You no longer rely on external approval to tell you that your feelings are legitimate. Emotional awareness also prevents overreaction. It allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, which strengthens both self-respect and the respect others have for you. Here's a small daily practice. Take 5 minutes each morning to check in with yourself. Ask, what am I feeling right now? Why? Write it down without censoring yourself. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to trust your inner compass, helping your self-worth grow from a secure, internal foundation rather than fragile external cues. Next, we'll explore how self-acceptance transforms your life and anchors self-worth, even when facing criticism or setbacks. Self-worth cannot exist without self-acceptance. It is the quiet, powerful acknowledgement of who you are, flaws, strengths, past mistakes, and everything in between. Many people spend their lives chasing perfection. They believe if they could just be smarter, prettier, more successful, or more likable, then they would finally feel worthy. But perfection is a mirage, and chasing it only deepens self-doubt. Self-acceptance is different. It is saying, I am enough, not because of what I achieve, but because I exist, because I am human. Here's a practical example. Imagine you made a mistake at work. Without self-acceptance, your mind says, I'm incompetent. I can't do anything right. With self-acceptance, your inner dialogue shifts. I made a mistake. That doesn't define me. I can learn from this and do better next time. Notice the difference. Self-acceptance doesn't ignore growth. It embraces it while treating yourself with respect and compassion in the process. Daily practices for self-acceptance include listing 3 things you like about yourself every morning, acknowledging mistakes without harsh self-criticism, celebrating small achievements instead of dismissing them. Self-acceptance allows you to create a stable foundation for self-worth. It frees you from the constant need for validation from others, because your value is grounded within. In the next part, we'll dive into how the company you keep affects your self-worth and why choosing the right social environment is crucial. Have you ever noticed how some people make you feel energized, confident, and capable, while others leave you feeling drained, anxious, or insecure? The truth is, the people you surround yourself with have a profound effect on your self-worth. Your environment, especially your social circle, can either reinforce your value or chip away at it silently over time. Consider these examples. A friend who constantly criticizes or belittles you may unknowingly teach you to doubt yourself. A partner who dismisses your feelings may reinforce the belief that your emotions are invalid or unimportant. Colleagues who take credit for your work or undermine your contributions may quietly erode your confidence. On the other hand, supportive friends who celebrate your successes and encourage growth remind you of your inherent value. Mentors who guide without judgment help you recognize your potential. Healthy relationships teach reciprocity, respect, and mutual care, reinforcing your self-worth naturally. Setting boundaries is critical here. You don't need to cut everyone off, but it's essential to limit time and energy with people who consistently drain your confidence. A practical approach. Audit your relationships. List the top 10 people you interact with regularly. Notice how you feel after spending time with each person. Energized or depleted? Take conscious action. Spend more time with those who uplift you and limit exposure to those who harm your sense of value. Remember, self-worth is not only about how you see yourself, it's also about the mirrors you hold up to yourself in the form of relationships. Now, we'll explore the subtle ways past experiences and childhood conditioning influence your self-worth as an adult. Your sense of value didn't start yesterday. It began long before you could articulate it, deep in the formative years of childhood. Many people underestimate how much early experiences affect their self-worth today. A dismissive parent, a critical teacher, or even subtle comparisons to siblings or peers can leave lasting imprints. Consider this. A child repeatedly told, "You're not good enough," learns to measure self-worth against external approval. A child who rarely receives praise or acknowledgement grows up seeking validation from anyone willing to provide it. Even well-intentioned lessons, like "work harder to succeed," can instill the belief that love and acceptance are conditional. These messages often become unconscious scripts that guide adult behavior. Seeking constant approval, overachieving to feel worthy, avoiding risks for fear of failure or rejection. The first step to breaking free is awareness. Reflect on your early experiences. Ask yourself, which messages shaped my beliefs about myself? Which ones still influence my actions and decisions today? Are these beliefs helping me, or holding me back. Next, practice rewriting your internal narrative. Recognize that your past does not define your present. Challenge old beliefs. I am enough, even if I fail or disappoint someone. Replace critical self-talk with compassionate, empowering statements. Remember, understanding your past isn't about blame, it's about insight. It's the key to freeing your self-worth from invisible chains that may have bound you for decades. In the next part, we'll dive into how comparison to others silently erodes self-worth and what to do about it. Have you ever scrolled through social media and felt an uneasy tug at your confidence? You see friends, colleagues, or strangers achieving, traveling, or succeeding, and suddenly, your accomplishments feel small, your worth diminished. This is the comparison trap, and it's one of the most insidious threats to self-worth. Comparison is natural. Our brains are wired to measure ourselves against others. It's part of survival and social learning. But in modern life, this mechanism has become toxic. Consider this. You post a personal success, and someone else posts something bigger. Suddenly, your achievement feels insignificant. You see a friend's relationship and question why yours isn't perfect. You notice a colleague's promotion and start doubting your own abilities. Here's the truth. Comparison steals your power. It shifts your focus from internal validation to external metrics, many of which are arbitrary or incomplete. Practical strategies to break free. Limit exposure to sources of comparison like social media, news, or gossip. Celebrate others without judgment. Learn to admire achievements without measuring them against your own. Focus on your unique journey. Set goals based on your values, not someone else's milestones. Daily affirmation. I am enough as I am, and my path is my own. Remember, the only person you should compete with is your past self. Comparison is a thief of joy, and consistently falling into it erodes self-worth silently but steadily. In the next part, we'll explore the role of inner dialogue and self-talk in shaping your sense of value. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or I'll never succeed? These thoughts may feel small or harmless, but over time, they quietly shape your self-worth. Self-talk is the ongoing conversation you have with yourself. It influences how you perceive your abilities, your value, and even your potential. Negative self-talk is like a corrosive drip. A little every day can erode confidence, fuel doubt, and reinforce insecurities. Consider this example. Imagine two people facing the same challenge, delivering a presentation at work. Person A thinks, I've prepared well. I can do this. Person B thinks, I'll mess up. Everyone will judge me. Even before stepping into the room, Person B is already at a disadvantage. Their mind is primed for fear and failure, while Person A approaches with calm and confidence. Here's how to harness self-talk to boost self-worth. Awareness. Notice the inner voice. Write down recurring negative thoughts. Challenge. Ask, is this true? Or am I assuming the worst? Reframe. Replace harmful statements with constructive ones. For example, I am learning and improving every day. Affirm. Start each morning with positive declarations. I am worthy. I am capable. I am enough. Remember, your mind can be your best ally or your worst enemy. Training your self-talk strengthens self-worth from the inside out, giving you resilience against external judgment and internal doubt. And now, we'll examine how past failures and mistakes influence self-worth and how to reframe them for growth. Everyone has experienced failure. It's inevitable. But here's the uncomfortable truth. How you interpret failure determines whether it strengthens or diminishes your self-worth. Many people internalize mistakes as proof of inadequacy. I failed, so I must not be capable. I didn't get that promotion, so I'm not valuable. These interpretations are lies your mind tells you, lies that silently erode your confidence and sense of value. Consider this example. Imagine someone who starts a small business that doesn't succeed. One perspective, I'm a failure. I'll never succeed. Another perspective, I learned what doesn't work. I now have experience that will help me succeed next time. The difference isn't in the event, it's in the narrative you create. Practical ways to reframe failure. Separate action from identity. Mistakes don't define you. They are events, not labels. Focus on lessons. Ask, what can I learn from this, rather than what's wrong with me? Celebrate effort. Self-worth grows when you honor courage and perseverance, not just outcomes. Practice self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you care about. Remember, failures are not threats to your worth. They are opportunities to deepen it. Every setback, if reframed, becomes a stepping stone towards self-respect, confidence, and resilience. In the next part, we'll explore the influence of your environment and relationships on your self-worth. Have you ever noticed how some people make you feel confident, alive, and capable, while others leave you drained, doubtful, or small? The environment you surround yourself with, both people and spaces, has a profound effect on your self-worth. Humans are social creatures. We instinctively mirror the energy, attitudes, and beliefs of those around us. Supportive friends and mentors amplify confidence and reinforce your value. Critical, judgmental, or toxic individuals chip away at your self-esteem, often without you realizing it. Consider a story. A young professional lands their first job in a highly critical office. Colleagues constantly nitpick their work and dismiss their ideas. Over time, even though the individual is skilled, they begin to doubt their abilities, feel unworthy, and lose confidence. Now imagine the same person in a supportive environment where mistakes are treated as learning opportunities and achievements are celebrated. Their self-worth flourishes. Practical ways to protect and enhance your self-worth through environment. Evaluate relationships. Ask, do these people build me up or tear me down? Seek mentors and allies. Surround yourself with those who inspire growth and self-respect. Create positive spaces. Organize your surroundings to reduce stress and encourage focus. Limit toxic exposure. It's okay to distance yourself from negativity, whether online, at work, or in social circles. Remember, self-worth doesn't develop in isolation. It thrives when nurtured by supportive environments and diminishes in toxic ones. The right surroundings amplify your inner strength and make it easier to trust and value yourself. Now, we'll dive into the role of personal boundaries in protecting and building self-worth. Your self-worth is fragile when you constantly let others dictate your feelings, actions, or value. This is where personal boundaries come in. They are the invisible lines that protect your emotional, mental, and physical space. Many people fear setting boundaries. They worry, if I say no, they'll be upset. If I assert myself, I'll be seen as selfish. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not selfish. They are essential. They communicate to yourself and others that your value matters. Consider this example. A woman constantly agrees to extra work at her office, fearing her boss or colleagues will think less of her if she refuses. Over time, exhaustion sets in, her confidence diminishes, and she begins to feel unworthy. Now imagine if she respectfully set boundaries, saying no when necessary. She preserves energy, maintains self-respect, and reinforces her inner worth. Practical steps to establish strong boundaries. Identify your limits. Know what drains you or makes you feel undervalued. Communicate clearly. Use simple, firm language. I cannot commit to this right now. Stay consistent. Boundaries are effective only when you enforce them consistently. Prioritize self-respect over approval. The discomfort of saying no is temporary. The loss of self-worth is permanent without boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are protective shields. They allow you to interact with the world without losing yourself, giving your self-worth the space to grow. It's almost instinctive to compare ourselves to others. Social media, workplaces, and even family gatherings constantly trigger comparisons. They're more successful than me. They look better, live better, achieve more. And each comparison chips away at your self-worth, often silently. Here's a story. A young man scrolls through Instagram every morning. He sees colleagues, classmates, and influencers posting achievements, vacations, and perfect lifestyles. He begins his day feeling inadequate, questioning his own abilities and doubting his value, even though he's accomplished and talented. Comparison is a thief. It steals joy, confidence, and the recognition of your unique journey. Practical ways to escape the comparison trap. Focus on your journey. Your path is unique, with challenges and victories others don't experience. Practice gratitude. Daily reflection on your accomplishments and blessings shifts focus from what you lack to what you have. Limit social media exposure. Curate your feed to follow growth, inspiration, and learning, not envy triggers. Celebrate others without devaluing yourself. Admiration is different from comparison. You can recognize others' achievements while honoring your own. Remember, your self-worth is intrinsic, not relative. It doesn't increase because someone else falls behind, nor diminish because they succeed. Breaking free from the comparison trap is about seeing your value independent of others, and finally giving yourself permission to thrive on your terms. In the next part, we'll dive into how self-talk shapes your self-worth and how to harness it positively. Your inner dialogue shapes how you feel about yourself more than anything else. Every thought, every phrase you repeat in your mind either builds your self-worth or erodes it. Consider this. Two people receive the same constructive criticism at work. Person A thinks, I can improve. This is a learning opportunity. Person B thinks, I'm terrible. I'll never be good enough. Both experience the same event, but their self-worth responds entirely differently. Negative self-talk is often automatic. It's the voice of past doubts, old fears, or societal expectations. It says, you're not enough. You'll never succeed. Why even try? Positive self-talk, on the other hand, is intentional. It nurtures confidence, resilience, and self-respect. Practical ways to reframe your inner voice. Become aware. Notice recurring negative phrases in your mind. Challenge them. Ask yourself, is this true or just my fear talking? Replace with affirmations. Use simple, realistic statements like, I am capable of growth, or I deserve respect and kindness. Practice daily. Repeat affirmations, journal positive reflections, and reinforce self-belief consistently. Story example. A college student struggled with self-worth due to failing exams. Every mistake became evidence of incompetence in her mind. She began journaling positive affirmations. I am learning. I am improving. My worth is not defined by a grade. Within months, her confidence returned, and she approached challenges with resilience. Remember, Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. The words you speak to yourself daily are the architects of your self-worth. In the next part, we'll explore how achievements and personal growth reinforce self-worth without making it dependent on external validation. Many people believe that self-worth comes from external achievements, grades, promotions, relationships, or recognition. But relying solely on external validation is risky. Achievements can be fleeting, and external opinions can change overnight. True self-worth comes from personal growth and consistent effort, not temporary accolades. Consider this story. A man dedicated years to running marathons. He didn't start to impress anyone. He started to challenge himself, improve his discipline, and honor his commitment. When he finished, the pride he felt wasn't because others noticed. It was because he recognized his own effort and resilience. Here's how to strengthen self-worth through achievements and growth. Set personal goals. Focus on what matters to you, not what impresses others. Track progress, not perfection. Celebrate small wins. Every step forward counts. Learn from setbacks. Mistakes are part of growth, not proof of inadequacy. Value effort over outcomes. Your worth isn't measured by trophies or approval. It's measured by your commitment to improvement. Even small acts, like learning a new skill, helping someone, or completing a difficult task, build internal confidence. The key is recognizing these actions as evidence of your capability, resilience, and value. Remember, external achievements are temporary, but the self-respect earned through growth lasts. When your worth comes from effort and improvement, no criticism or comparison can shake it. Now, we'll explore how relationships influence self-worth and how to navigate them healthily. The people around you can either lift your self-worth or erode it, often without intention. Friends, family, colleagues, and even romantic partners send subtle messages about how they perceive and value you. Consider this story. A woman constantly sought validation from her partner, believing she needed his approval to feel worthy. Every criticism, every moment of silence, triggered self-doubt. When she finally focused on relationships that encouraged her growth, celebrated her uniqueness, and respected her boundaries, she realized her worth was not in seeking approval. It was in honoring herself first. Here's how to navigate relationships with self-worth in mind. Recognize toxic patterns. Notice people who consistently undermine your confidence or dismiss your feelings. Set boundaries. Protect your emotional space. Saying no does not make you selfish. It reinforces your value. Seek mutual respect. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your efforts and accept your imperfections. Stop people-pleasing. Your value is not dependent on constant approval. Practice self-validation. Acknowledge your own achievements, growth, and resilience before waiting for others to do it. Relationships can mirror your internal worth. When you honor yourself, others naturally adjust to respect and value your boundaries and presence. Wind up. You've journeyed through understanding self-worth. You've explored your triggers, habits, and thoughts. You've learned how comparison, self-talk, and relationships shape your perception. You've discovered practical tools for cultivating growth, resilience, and internal validation. Self-worth is not static. It's a daily practice. Every decision, every thought, every boundary reinforces your belief in your own value. When you internalize this, life changes. You stop seeking permission to exist. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop allowing external events to define your confidence. Your self-worth becomes unshakable,